Has he never won there?
He will be livid.
Like Red Bull will be like...
The definition of a missed opportunity.
That's literally all anyone's looking at.
Hello and welcome to the Inside Track, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of Formula One through our exclusive access to Red Bull Racing. I'm Rick Edwards, journalist, bit of a stretch that, broadcaster and Formula One fan.
And I'm sports journalist Matt Majendie.
Bit of a stretch that. On today's show, lots to talk about. Max, with his fourth win of the season in Azerbaijan, can he keep this momentum for the rest of the season? We'll talk about Oscar Piastri's nightmare in Baku. Missed opportunity for Lando as McLaren are forced to wait for the Constructors' Prize, although realistically not going to have to wait very long. We'll discuss the chaotic scenes. It was just a mess qualifying. A record 6 red flags. And Yuki Tsunoda pulls off a strong points finish. Is his seat still up for grabs? And I know you'll have a view on that, Matt. As always, if you want to watch this episode or get the latest video content from Race Day, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Inside Track Podcast. So, listen, it was just a perfect race from Verstappen, but it's kind of all about the qualifying. Once he'd done so well in qualifying, one of the few people who did, it was pretty plain sailing, the actual race, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very easy. I mean, he was helped superb in qualifying, but helped by the fact that McLaren and Ferrari were not good in qualifying. And by that very nature, they were then back. And so the threat was not there. So he knew, for example, one of the strokes he played, and it was his call himself, Verstappen, was to go on the hard tyres from the start of the race. And that's bearing in mind he hadn't used the hard tyres all weekend. So it's quite a bold call. But I think he felt with a Williams against him, he was less under threat. Maybe he wouldn't have made that choice if he had a Piastri or Norris, probably wouldn't have done necessarily. But it meant he could run much, much longer. And he I don't know, stopped 11 laps or something from the end. But he nailed it, everything of that weekend.
He really did. How uncommon or common is it for drivers to make a decision like that on something quite technical like tyres?
I don't think it's very common.
No.
Some of the sort of bigger, more established names have got the credence in there, like an Alonso or Hamilton or a Verstappen. That they've got a lot. While they're not engineers, they've got a lot of technical and engineering experience. And when a driver like that, like a Verstappen, pushes quite strongly for something like that, they will listen to it. They will talk the other side of it. But the inference from the team, they're saying that basically it was Verstappen's push to go on that tyre, and it turned out to be a good call. That said, had he done it the other way around, I think he might have won anyway. But he felt that was his best chance.
I am now allowing myself to get slightly overexcited because the gap to the top now, Verstappen to Piastri, is 69 points. Now that is a lot of points, but we know that momentum is something that is key in Formula One. 2 wins on the bounce, dominant. Verstappen is, like, we know he's the best driver. I am convincing myself, and this is very much heart over head, that Verstappen could get back into this title race. It's tantalising.
It's nice because he's won 2. There's a mathematical possibility. If he wins another 2, you don't know. I think what you need to say is the team were always going to go well at Monza. They were pretty confident with how they were set up.
Yes.
They were not totally sure how well they would go in Baku or how well their others would go against them, and that did very well. The test now comes at subsequent tracks. So these tracks that suited them, played well to their strengths. The question is, have they just got a car that's still good on the lower downforce, fast circuits, or can they translate that to the high downforce circuits? So Singapore is literally the ultimate test in 2 weekends' time. High downforce, Verstappen has amazingly never ever won there. So that says quite a lot in itself about him and the car going around there. If they're able to pull off a win there, that would be proper take up and notice by McLaren. McLaren have already said they believe he's a title rival. I don't believe that yet, but
no, I think I'm going early just because it's fun to.
Why not?
The other thing about Singapore is hard to overtake, right? So again, it's about qualifying, and we've seen Verstappen time and time again, particularly this season, just pull some stuff out in qualifying that is extraordinary. So even if the car isn't as good as the McLarens, you still wouldn't put it past him to get a pole and therefore be in a really great position to win it.
He gets himself dialed in, the car set up perfectly for qualifying. So I'm not saying that's not beyond the realms of possibility. The other bit, the Singapore factor is, there's some barriers pretty close up there. So we could have a few offs. If that's a Piastri off, then that throws everything up. But 69 points against what is still the best car. Wasn't the best car last weekend or the weekend before, but still the best car is a hard ask. And McLaren's saying, they definitely think that.
Try and chase down 2 drivers rather than 1. If it was a gap of 69 to 1 driver, you'd say that's weirdly more doable than a gap when you're chasing down 2, isn't it?
But if those 2 are taking points off each other, then that helps the cause, doesn't it? Maybe it makes it doubly hard. I don't know. But Helmut Marko was funny. He just totally laughed it off, the suggestion. If we pull off a miracle in Singapore, then yes. And I love it. McLaren are going, yes, or they're real championship challengers. They're trying to shift the pressure onto them. So it's a little bit of mind games for everyone.
No, we were obviously texting during the race at the weekend, and I knew you were going to be very happy about Yuki's finish. So getting points is obviously good news. I think he probably should have passed Liam Lawson. And I know you won't want to criticise him.
I can't believe you got criticism from that race.
No, but I think there were opportunities.
I take your point.
And I think he didn't take them. And
I think he could and perhaps should have attained P5. You'd be very pleased with P6, but just if you look back on those, the moves there, then he perhaps should have done that, P5. And it's great. You take away from the weekend, great result. P6, he's in the points again, as he has been, and that was huge. But unfortunately, again, he has a racing bull ahead of him. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So you do that, and the racing bull ahead of him is, it's not a perfect look, but
no,
good race. They were very, very pleased with his pace, and I find it fascinating because there's now you've got sort of Helmut Marko slightly suggesting behind the scenes. It would seem that the Hadjar deal is done. You've got Mekis saying very much not the case. We are wide open. We've got these 3 seats open with drivers. You know who the drivers are we're talking to. I'm told the official line is nothing has been decided, no deal has been done for next season. If he keeps on doing things like that, then the argument, does it go back to him? So I don't know. And then Liam Lawson throwing it into the mix, driving as well as he did, because Hadjar had some wobbles. He didn't look great. He had some mishaps along the way and dropped back. I think he had some issue with his throttle early on, and so
I think we can probably rule out Liam Lawson coming back. That doesn't feel very likely to me. Although with Red Bull, you just don't know.
If he keeps on qualifying in like P3, finishing P5, like who knows? Yeah. This is the great thing of Formula One. You can 1 week you can be a write-off. The next thing next week you're the best thing since sliced bread. So we'll see.
I guess my take is that Tsunoda knows that his position is at best very vulnerable. And therefore, you need to be doing absolutely everything to convince the people that need convincing that you are worthy of that seat. And what you don't really want is being a little bit tentative, which is probably what I would say about him not passing Liam Lawson. You kind of just need to go for it. Like you really have got nothing to lose in the sense that you are probably going to lose your seat. Therefore, go for it, see what happens. And for me, he didn't quite do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know I wasn't there to be able to listen to the team radio to see if there was any instruction or what the dialogue. It would have been fascinating to delve into that. But they are definitely pleased. Within the team, the chat is they're very pleased with what he did, and more importantly that his lap times were not a million miles off Verstappen. That's obviously a key facet, and he can basically go at the end of the race saying, "See, guys, you give me a car that's drivable. Look what I can do." I mean, that's the argument. If I was him, that I'd take back to the team after that one, and they'll say, "Go and show us what you can do in Singapore and beyond."
Right. Let's talk about Oscar Piastri. If there's one thing that we've said consistently about him, is that he is robotically consistent and he doesn't make mistakes. And it's almost since I accused him of being boring and then interviewed him and thought he was quite nice, it's all changed. So now he's giving me what I want.
He was consistent at the weekend, but consistently bad.
Consistently awful, yeah. But in a way, so when he sort of started badly, when the weekend started badly for him, you kind of thought, well, obviously that's not going to continue because that's a real anomaly. And then when it did, you sort of thought, well, I mean, is something going on here? We've banged on incessantly about him being so calm and cool and unflappable, and maybe we've just discovered that he's not quite so unflappable. He's flappable.
Well, he's human after all, isn't he? And you feel the pressure and you make mistakes. But at the same time, if you're him, do you come away from an absolutely atrocious weekend and go, my God, my lead is barely cut into because of what his rival did or was unable to do, So actually, if you're going to have if he'd had an atrocious weekend, Norris wins the race, fastest lap. It's very different. As it is, he's still got a good buffer.
Yes.
I don't get the sense that anything's going too untoward with him. Sometimes you just have a bad weekend. And I mean, that off in qualifying was terrible. That start was utterly dreadful. And then into the barriers again. And it looks so innocuous the way he goes into the barriers. It's easy for us to judge not in the cockpit, but it's a bit like, yeah, how's it happened?
Why have you done that? Yeah, you steer straight into the barriers there.
I mean, I think a big part of it was the wind. So it's called like the City of Wind, Baku. And a lot of drivers complained about that, how the gusts were really catching the car. My understanding with the way the Red Bulls set up, actually, they were less affected by that. Suddenly, that was less of an issue. But because these things are not quite like, they're so sort of delicately balanced, these cars, and a lot of different teams, that if a gust of wind could, sets you off, which I think in part plays a part with some of those crashes we saw in qualifying, because you're pushing it in qualifying more than a race to the absolute limit. And so if something like that does happen, it's very easy to career off into the barriers. But I've never seen a qualifying like that. There's another one. Oh, there's another one. I didn't have a clue what was going on.
No, I don't think anyone did. Do you think that the sort of Baku council officials at some point said, right, we've got it. We know how we're going to brand the city. We're going the Windy City. And then they've had like an email from the mayor of Chicago going, sorry, you can't have Windy City.
Can we have Europe's Windy City?
And they're like, no, still a bit confusing. And they've gone, City of Wind? And Chicago gone, well, yeah, that's rubbish. Yeah, you're welcome to that.
Yeah, you
City
can have
of
that, you're
Wind.
welcome.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? It's not a great title. But great race, great circuit.
Incredible race.
Quality weekend all round. I mean, qualify. You don't always have great qualifying and then great race. There's so many moves and overtaking, whatever, during the race. I know Verstappen was out clear, but it's great watch all weekend.
Yeah, it's quite a good reminder that sometimes it doesn't really matter that the lead isn't contested, because it just means you get to content. You're basically like, oh yeah, okay, Verstappen's fine, he's going to win, and then you watch all the rest. And there was some really good stuff. I mean, Carlos Sainz will be obviously. Yeah, he's had a tough season, and he will be and was thrilled to bits.
Yeah, I mean, he was superb, wasn't he? Absolutely superb. Yeah. I didn't think he could equate that to the podium in that car. I assumed he was going to get swallowed up by other cars, but not at all. Again, a pretty faultless drive, and I love the old smooth operator coming down the team radio after he's done as well. Everyone loves all that. So great for him, because he has had a tough old time. And in contrast, Alex Albon had a bit of a horror, didn't he? We're normally singing his praises, but his weekend didn't go quite so well.
Yeah. Although again, climbed up the field in the way that Alex Albon does, just didn't climb up as far as he would have liked. Liam Lawson, we mentioned him in P5. Really good race.
Yeah, really good race. It had echoes a bit of Monaco. Do you remember that one when he was backing up the rest of the field? In that instance,
yeah.
He was backing up the field to aid his teammate. So when they had the pit stops, the 2 stops that they were compulsory to have to aid his teammate, he's
Love
so
a
good
DRS train.
Yeah, but he was holding everyone back under an enormous amount of pressure, and that's not easy to do for lap upon lap upon lap. I assumed he was going to get past and pulled off some great moves himself. They always talk about him being an elbow out racer, and I think we saw it there. And yeah. He'll be delighted. That's his best finish he's had in his career, and he's upstaged Hadjar, who's everyone's always praising all the time. And I think we need to take a moment to praise Lawson, because he had such a horrid start to this season, and then a difficult initiation at Racing Bulls, struggled to get into place. But that Monaco was the turning point, and I mean that was a great race for him. To qualify where he did, I know it was a bit fortuitous with how everything else happened, but you sort of, he was the one still on track and not in the barriers. And then his race was fantastic as well.
George Russell apparently did he have a dicky tummy this week? So he was a bit poorly.
I didn't know that until the end, when he said something down the race radio, didn't he? Where he said, yeah.
But that's a great finish for him. And again, he's had a really, really good season. I think with he's done everything he could. I mean, they had a bit of a lull, didn't they? But he's basically done everything he can with that car.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, he had a good ding-dong as well with Kimi Antonelli, with his teammate. That was fun to see. And it was nice to see Antonelli wasn't, holding back. Russell, he had to give way in that corner, back off. And obviously he picked him off later. But we've talked about Russell, very good, but again, sort of a bit Albon-esque in that he just quietly gets on with it. Doesn't always get the praise he deserves necessarily. I think he'll be excited for next season. If this Mercedes engine is supposedly the quickest out there of what's possible, he's showing his credentials. Will next year be the year where he's properly at the front of the grid?
Challenging,
because he deserves to have a championship challenging car, I think.
Feels like it, doesn't it? Yeah. And then Antonelli, I think, will be pleased because my understanding is that Toto Wolff sort of had a word with him and said, listen, just clean race, please, from you. And he delivered.
I can't remember his wording on Monza, but he basically said it was atrocious, near enough. And quite publicly as well. That's quite a big dressing down when he's been, nice arm around him. And maybe that's
18-year-old kid. Yeah,
but maybe that's what he needed. Maybe he needed a bit of tougher love. But whatever he said to him, it worked. It was just really exciting. It was like seeing him at the start of the season when we got excited by him. It was that again, seeing that pure young racing talent. I love that. We always like him too.
So my argument is, of the two McLaren drivers, Lando Norris had a worse weekend, and I'll justify it to you, because for Piastri, just awful. You just say, okay, complete write-off. But oh wow, I'm still 25 points ahead in the drivers' championship. That's absolutely fine. If you'd offered me that at the start of the season, I would have bitten your hand off. No issue. We regroup and we go again in Singapore. For Norris, he is thinking to himself, right, my teammate who is ahead of me never makes any mistakes. It's going to be so hard to try and reel him in from here. He then has a terrible weekend. It's there for me. I absolutely fail to capitalise. I'd be kicking myself. And I don't know if you heard any of his interviews after the race, Lando, but Lando's normally so sort of measured and he can be emotional, but don't really hear him sort of sharp with anyone. And he was a little bit sharp with some people, and I think that's because he was really frustrated. And he was sort of saying, "No, I don't feel like I've missed an opportunity." Blah blah blah. You're like, well, you do feel that because you categorically. It's like the definition of a missed opportunity. Like it really is. Like you can't dress it up, and he couldn't dress it up. And I think he will be livid with himself.
Yeah, it's when I've spoken to him this season, he talks about how it takes him a day or two if he's had a bad race to get over it. I think this one will eat away at him for longer because he would desperately like a race next weekend rather than another gap, because that'll eat away at him. And you can't help but think, how detrimental is that going to be to my championship? I had a clear opportunity. You get the sense that Piastri is not going to mess up that as badly as that many times.
Exactly.
There's not going to be these sort of golden carrot dangled in front of him, and he just couldn't capitalise. It was so odd seeing him sort of occasionally able to get past some cars and then not again. He just didn't seem to have it all. I don't know if there's a bigger issue with the McLaren, but
I don't know. It seemed like he just sort of didn't have his mojo.
That's a very good description. He just didn't have it. When he's on it, it's wonderful. He's really on it, but he just wasn't. And whether, if Piastri's having issues, whether there is a problem, a headache at McLaren, whether they've hit a gremlin or something, I don't know. I doubt it. I think come Singapore, they'll be going well again.
Yeah. Obviously, a slow pit stop again is not great, but I don't know if that was the real. I don't think that made
problems. A massive difference. I know two cars went past, but I just don't think it would have made an enormous difference. It's not helpful. It's not a good look. Like Red Bull will be like, rubbing their hands with glee watching another front, the guns stuck there. They, a couple more seconds taken than they should do. It's just this slick operation. They've been near perfect McLaren all season, and suddenly there's just a little bit of wobble, which is fun for us. This goes back to this dare to dream there could be a different challenger to the McLarens.
I'm pretty sure we spoke last time about whether the Ferraris would be challenging here, and they had another disappointing weekend, and I think they've now dropped behind Mercedes in the constructors. They must have done, yeah.
They have. They just wasn't right from the outset. Their qualifying for both was bad. They just couldn't get it on. I genuinely, because it's a circuit they normally go well at. I think I had one of them down for a podium finish, which wasn't the best call as it turns out. But I'm very pleased no one's had picked that three. I mean, you deserved a 9 points and not a 6 pointer if you got that as your top three.
Yeah. Anything else we need to talk about from the from Azerbaijan?
I mean, it's a bit more about the Verstappen idea that Marco's talking a lot about and this was a previous race, a lot less reliance on simulation and more leaning on Verstappen and what he says and stuff. Obviously, the engineers are working on that stuff, but also,
And that's coming from Mekies, isn't it? Presumably.
Yeah, I mean, there appears, we've always talked about how there's a narrow window of the RB21 in which it performs. That window seems to be widening, and it goes back. That Monza floor, the change to that goes back to that. But I think it goes back to Silverstone when Horner was still there. The changes from that point onwards have begin to go incrementally in the right direction on the car.
But you can't. The thing about the Red Bull, it's quite hard, is you can only really tell how big the window is by how the second driver is doing, because Verstappen just finds the window, and it's sort of a window designed for him, and he just sits in it. So it's if Tsunoda's doing better, then yeah.
I think that said a lot. It said a lot about how the car is and the behaviour. But it's the great unknown is going into the next race and the ones beyond there.
Time to review our predictions for Baku. So it's 1 point for each driver on the podium we correctly call. 6 points on offer if we absolutely nail the 1, 2, 3. I am now starting to accept that maybe we will never get a 6-pointer. We're leaving it quite late in the season now, aren't we?
This is the furthest I've been away from a 6-pointer.
Yeah, absolutely miserable stuff from you. I'm delighted to report. So we're competing not just against each other, but also against you, the audience, and an AI bot. These are our Grand Prix predictions. And if that doesn't make you want to get involved, I don't know what to tell you, really. Your lead was cut down a bit after Italy, and you were in a bit of trouble again this week. Can you remember who you went for?
I can't remember which way round. I think I went Norris, Piastri, Leclerc.
That's absolutely right, which gets you a massive 0 points. Is that your first 0? I think it is.
Oh, I think it is my first 0. I mean, it was a full fat 0. That was unbelievable that none of those three are there. It is quite a surprise, but yes, zilch.
I went for Verstappen, Norris, Piastri. So it's only 1 point. But it's quite
but yes, you deserve 17 points because you got the winner. Yeah.
Also, you
can't help yourself.
No, I can't. But also, you have to listen to me. Never don't put Verstappen in. You're mad not to put Verstappen. Why would you ever not have Verstappen?
You said
it.
I
say it to you.
You literally said that to me.
It's crazy to rule him out. He's too good. Really frustrating. I do only get 1 point for that magnificent prediction.
For having got just one right.
Yeah, but in the right position. The AI bot predicted Norris, Piastri, Verstappen. It also gets 1 point, even though that isn't as good as my prediction, infuriatingly. And then our audience member selected at random this week, Graham on Instagram, who went for Piastri, Verstappen, Norris. Also 1 point, but notice that all of us, including Verstappen, very, very wisely. So the leaderboard now, Matt on 33, me on 31.
Oof.
I'm just starting to sniff around at your dirty air, and I like it.
Yes, you're a bit like Max Verstappen. You've been miles off, and then suddenly.
Yeah. Well, I'm not miles. I'm not the audience who are on 26. I mean, they are. I think you can safely say they're out of it. The AI is on 28. I suppose the thing that you don't know about the AI is it might just be playing us. It might just. When in the last 3 races, it might just get
2 6-pointers.
It might just get 2 6-pointers and win, and just be like, I was just trying to make obviously I can get them right every time.
So you don't think it's a 2-horse race? Is it a 2-horse race yet? Just you and me? It's getting that way.
I think it's close because unless someone gets a 6-pointer, it feels 2-horse racy, doesn't it?
I'm feeling a bit Piastri in Baku. I've felt the pressure. The loss.
Well, I'm excited to hear what terrible predictions you're going to make for Singapore, actually. Now, we do have to, I mean, we've touched on this already, but I think we should talk about it a bit more. There is a very strong rumour now that Isack Hadjar is going to join Red Bull Racing next year in the second seat. And it just feels like that is a solid rumour. I don't know how it feels to you journalistically. I know that Red Bull are saying no decision has been made.
When that story, I think it was Motor and Sport in Germany, which is a very reliable source. Some of the things I wouldn't pay attention to, but that's the outlet it came out from. And chap there's got, been in the business for years. He's got pretty good, credentials, very good contacts, etc. So there seems a reality to that. Red Bull are still pushing the same thing, that no deal has been done, no official deal has been done. That's not to say they haven't told. The inference is that Hadjar has been told by Marco,
there might be some
drivers
unofficial stuff. Yeah.
But if no one's signed a deal and he trundles down the order and Tsunoda suddenly starts consistently scoring points, you don't know.
No.
Like, these things can shake up. But it does, it's looked for a while that Hadjar is in the front line for that. But all credit to Tsunoda when he knows that. You touched on that, the pressure he's under, knowing he can't put a foot wrong, and drove the way he did all weekend. We'll see.
What would Tsunoda need to do in the final 7 races of the season in order to secure that seat again next year?
I think if he's a few places and just a couple of tenths or whatever outside of his teammate, that's what he needs to be. If he shows that week in, week out, that they're not the mistakes, that the qualifying pace is there, because that's been all important. It's been so hard to overtake at so many circuits. So he needs to qualify better. He obviously did that the weekend. Generally, often the race pace can be good, but he's had so much work to do to claw his way back from having gone out in Q1, for example. So we can get better qualifying pace, closer to Verstappen.
Maybe a podium. A little podium wouldn't hurt, would it?
I mean, that would be very helpful for his cause, wouldn't it? At the next race or two,
spraying champagne over helmet Marco.
But the thing is, he can't afford mistakes, so that's the problem. So if he has a crap weekend, it gets amplified because of what's at stake.
By me.
So, well, yes, you and
I'm part of the problem.
And there's only so many Yuki apologists like me to help fight as a corner.
if you were if you were Laura Mekies, what would you do? I mean, I sort of know what you'd do. You'd maybe get rid of Verstappen and put Yuki in the number 1 seat.
I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I would still. There's still quite a few races left of the season. Why they don't need to make this decision now? They don't need to tell Hadjar the seat is his. He's got a seat. He knows he's he knows he's safe on the grid next season, whatever car he's driving, and he knows he's got a seat. Tsunoda doesn't know that. I would keep on giving Tsunoda time. If he's finally getting the car that he wanted, the floor like Verstappen's, the upgrades like Verstappen's, if he's fully got the same car or a similar car setup, etc., and all the upgrades on that Verstappen, then you can fairly judge him. And if they give him that, and that's what they're doing, they're pushing in that direction, they give him that, and he's able to deliver, then great. But if he can't, then, it's a cutthroat world. He'll be out the door.
Yeah. Because you're absolutely right. There is no need to say anything to either of those drivers at the moment. But the way that Red Bull work is unusual, isn't it? At the very top level, they don't they don't operate in a standard way.
Which is why it makes it so fun, doesn't it?
Never
a dull moment. So.
No, and I'm sure some of the drivers would quite like there to be a dull moment. Just get on with things. Okay, let's look ahead to the next race on the Formula One calendar, which is the Marina Bay in Singapore, Sunday the 5th of October. What are you looking out for sort of in the intervening couple of weeks?
So it's all about whether Red Bull can get a car that works at that track. That's literally all anyone's looking at, whether you're inside with Red Bull or whatever. That's what people are curious to see. Are McLaren to get back on top? Will Red Bull have a car that has a wider window that's able to perform at a circuit where they haven't tend to go brilliantly? To be fair, Verstappen was, I think, second last year, but he was 20 seconds behind. Yeah, go.
Can I ask a question? And this is just this is partly for me, but partly just for anyone who's listening who is thinking now, when they talk about low downforce circuits and high downforce circuits, what does it mean? Because that's sort of what we're on here, isn't it?
So they can have a setup for a lower downforce circuit where there are these faster straights, less. So you're kind of balancing being able to go really fast on the straights and being able to stick your corners very well. Now they can take off some downforce because Verstappen's such a brilliant driver. He can make these corners stick.
He can make them stick.
The issue they've been having is this kind of in mid-corner, they get a bit of rotation. So he suddenly gets a little sort of snap movement. That's been an issue for them, but it wasn't in Baku. That didn't exist. Now we're going to Singapore, which is interesting because it has some high-speed corners and lower-speed corners. So there's a bit more of a balancing act. I'm very, very curious to see how they set up, because they can't have the Monza type car, they can't have the Baku type car, or the Silverstone, which was a very good setup. If it hadn't rained, they would have won that race. They can't have that style of car. Have they understood the car, the RB21, enough to get a Singapore setup car? I'll be fascinated to see that. I'm unconvinced that they have, but if they do, that's great. That's so exciting for the rest of the season, and kind of setting up for 2026 as well, because you want everyone to be closer racing than just two people going for the wins.
It's such a fascinating sort of shift in approach from Red Bull as well. If, as you're saying, they are just listening a bit more to Verstappen, rather than just going on what their engineers are saying, what their scientists are saying, what their simulations are saying, and whether his sort of like exceptional understanding of everything about the car might allow them to get the car that you're talking about for a circuit like Singapore.
There's a slight negative bit of me that thinks, a cynic in me that thinks, it's Marco perhaps and some others who are pushing that message that, it's all Verstappen. Verstappen's doing this. Wait a second.
They're not quite saying all.
No, but they're saying quite a heavy thing. But if you're like a Pierre Vacher or the engineers, these guys have clearly worked out something on that car. They've clearly unlocked something that is of their doing also. So you need to make it sort of clear that's the sum of the parts. It's able to work. I mean, he's got a great relationship with GP, his engineer, and I think that seems to be coming together better than ever. Everyone seems to be listening to each other and working together. Drivers, engineers, mechanics, etc. We had Matt Keller on last week, and he talked about how the dialogue from GP and the engineers to them, how good that was. So I think that's just all suddenly from that mess of blowing hot and cold, great weekend to absolutely disastrous weekend to another disastrous one, then suddenly good again. There seems to be a bit more calm, a bit more consistency. But as I say, keep on repeating it. Broken record, but Singapore will be the acid test for them.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Singapore hasn't been great for. There's not many tracks that Verstappen hasn't won at, are there? Singapore is one of them.
That's interesting. I don't know what the list is, but yeah, he definitely hasn't won. That's a glaring omission. He's won, nearly 70 races, but not there.
From McLaren's point of view, they're absolutely breezing the Constructors' Championship. Their two drivers are still way out ahead. But there might be some nerves creeping in. If anyone is going to make someone feel nervous, it's Verstappen.
Well, it's not just that. It's Verstappen, who's always quick, but he now has a car that's quick, and a car that has shown itself to be quicker at certain circuits than McLaren. That will alarm them. I mean, if they're really honest, a 69-point lead in the Drivers' Championship at this point is quite safe, and they need to have faith in their drivers that they'll be okay. They're definitely feeling that pressure. And Verstappen can do that on and off track. And Red Bull can do that. They're very good at in-season development. We've talked about in the past. It's taken a while to fully get there, but they seem to be there. And, it's fun. When people are under pressure, when teams are under pressure, they've been so cool. Andrea Stella and Zach Brown and their drivers have been super cool. And the camaraderie of teams, suddenly there's just that wobble, and it just adds to the kind of theatre and drama. I love it.
Right. I've just checked the other circuits that Max Verstappen has not won at. Want to have a go?
No, I wouldn't have a clue.
So basically, one of them is actually quite gettable, I think, and then there's another 5. 4 of them are not on the calendar anymore. If that helps.
Turkey, Istanbul.
Yes, Istanbul. Very good. That's one of the ones that's not on the calendar. Absolutely, sort of classic European circuit. No longer raced at
Nürburgring.
Okay. A Winter Olympics city.
Oh, is it? Has he never won there in Russia?
Yeah, Sochi.
God, is that really
surprising,
true?
Isn't it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah. We got 3 left here. Middle East,
Saudi Arabia,
Bahrain.
No.
On the outer track.
Yeah, wow.
The other one is Southern Europe. The thing is, I think it's only been raced once, so it doesn't really count.
Oh, Portimao.
Oh, that's not the one I was talking about. Yes, very good. Yes. So that's and the one I'm talking about is Southern European. Like I think if you say the name to someone, they would immediately think of a different motorsport. If that helps, I think it's a MotoGP track.
Which one is it? Then?
Like more.
You're going to have to give it to me. I think
Mugello.
Oh God! Right, blimey. That was a tough. I feel like I failed there.
No, but I mean, look, I don't think I think it was quite fun. I wouldn't want to pitch that as a format to anyone. Worth saying that Verstappen has won in the sort of standard layout of Bahrain, so that's it's a bit of a fiddle, that one, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, let's do our predictions. Matt out in front, just a narrow 2-point lead now. The audience rooted to the bottom of the table. Who is your 1, 2, 3 for Singapore? And are you going to listen to my very clear messaging on how you predict?
Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and George Russell. Just because you made me do it. You made me do the opposite.
This is mind games for me because I wanted you to do that.
Damn it. That's what I thought beforehand. I take it you've got Verstappen in your top 3.
Of course I have, yeah. The AI also has. The AI is a chump, we know that, but it's gone for Verstappen, Piastri, Norris. I'm going for that, but switching the McLarens. So Verstappen, Norris, Piastri.
Okay.
And that, I mean, and again, I think I'm largely doing that because that's sort of what what I want to happen is it to be sort of, Verstappen, Lawson, Albon, but in terms of the just for the championship race, but in terms of what I think is likely to happen, and that would also feed into a good
I just don't think Red Bull are going to be flying there. But I'm not going to mind eating those words because it'd be great if they are. It'd be great if they've unlocked that car, that it works at a circuit like that in particular, because that sets up everything the rest of the season. So I hope, in some ways, I hope and don't hope you're right.
Yeah. By the way, the AI, I don't think we asked for this, has given us dark horses. It says George Russell, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. I mean,
too much information.
No, that's not how it works.
No. Oh, it's heard you too often for your excuses and why you should get extra points. So it's going to argue it should get extra points.
Well, no. But they're not excuses. They're never excuses. They're just saying that my prediction was very good and it's not being credited.
There have been excuses. I definitely remember some excuses.
The scoring system does not.
In your mind, it's going to be a moral victory.
It'll
be a moral victory in this competition wherever you finish for you.
Yes, I mean that's been very clear, very clear, almost from the first week. And we will select a listener to represent you, the audience. If you want to throw your hat into the ring, do so on our Instagram stories or on our YouTube comments. Do remember to follow us on Instagram, TikTok or YouTube or all of them. Search for the Inside Track Podcast or you can check out the show notes. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time to review all the drama from Singapore and provide some exclusive insider insight, as always, from Team Red Bull. The Inside Track is funded and made by BBC Studios, a commercial company that is wholly owned by the BBC. It's produced and edited by John Weeks, video editing and social media by Georgina Revel, and James Cook is the executive producer.